Hi, everybody. I'm Gene Valicenti. Welcome to this edition of Coffee Time, or as I like to call it, Coffee Milk, streaming across all of our NBC 10 platforms, YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, it's things that haven't even been invented yet. We're on it this morning. We hope you're on with us. And by the way, our Facebook people, you can certainly text us and get in on the conversation, and my producer, Dan, will be monitoring those. I just did 3 hours of radio, so believe it or not, I'm not talked out. But we'll get to the rest of the day's news. But first, we've got some important weather news. There's something going on up on the Southeast Expressway into Boston. It's called flash flooding. NBC 10's Jason Doris is on this. Jason, I think you've got that little red triangle behind you. Let's talk about that. Did you see the car stuck on the
Oh yeah.
expressway into Boston today?
Oh yeah, absolutely crazy scenes, Gene. Some of your radio listeners on their way up maybe to Boston had to deal with this. The torrential rain that came down basically from 6 o'clock in the morning all the way through until just about the last hour prompted some flash flooding along the 95 corridor up through Massachusetts. We still have one area of flash flooding that's still occurring in and around the Quincy area, and that is where they actually closed down 93 for a portion of the morning because of it flooding out completely and basically becoming impassable there. But the good news is the rain is starting to lighten up a little bit more, but they still have that flash flood warning in place because of the light to moderate rain that's coming down is kind of preventing that water from kind of draining out efficiently. Still have the flash flood watch though for Bristol County, Rhode Island, Newport County, and Bristol County, Rhode Island as well, along with Plymouth. We're expecting that to be expiring within the next hour or two for us here locally. We'll continue to have some of those watchers in place to the east of 495 for a little bit longer. But taking a look at the current radar, we can see that heavy batch of rain has now moved off, which is the good news. There's still some light to moderate stuff coming down through a good portion of the Ocean State and then also Bristol County, Massachusetts there. But we zoom out here and we can see kind of our system here. We're at the tail end of it, so we're going to have just a couple more hours of rain. Should be wrapping up sometime in the afternoon. But take a look at these rainfall reports, Gene. Canton this morning, 4.5 inches of rain. Sharon, almost 4.5 as well. And then we quickly dropped off as you made your way a little bit further south and back down into Attleboro, where they only got 3/4 of an inch of rainfall. So it was a kind of a sharp gradient, whether or not you were under that torrential rain band or not. I'll kind of show you that in a second here. But Cumberland picking up over 2 inches, Glendale 1.82, 1.37 in Woonsocket, Chepachet 1.3 basically, and same thing there in Smithfield. But look how narrow this line of downpours more or less was, and that had kind of led to that perfect storm timing up with that morning commute right over 95. And as we all know, that is a very well-traveled corridor there. But the southern half of the state really hasn't seen all that much besides some light to moderate rainfall over the last a couple of hours. Now, again, most of the rainfall should be starting to wrap up by about maybe noontime, and then we're just stuck with some clouds, some isolated showers through the rest of today, some cool temperatures too, right around 73 degrees. Dew points still a little bit muggy, but a break from the tropical humidity that we've had in place the last couple of days. So here we go, timing things out here. Most of the activity, again, kind of concentrated towards the southern coast. There could still be a couple embedded downpours or maybe even a rumble of thunder, especially out towards the Cape, where it taps into a little bit more instability. But by the time we're rolling into the evening commute, things are much drier and it should be a lot smoother of a commute home from work compared to what we had to deal with this morning, which is the good news. And even better news, Gene, we got another dry weekend on tap here in southern New England. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that coming up starting at noon.
Well, that's good for us. But I think if you're still heading into Boston and you're hearing us, I'd go another way because that Southeast Expressway, that's the main artery in, and the cars were stuck in the water. It's a mess.
Yeah, that's right.
To recede. All right, Jason, thanks. We'll check in with you a little later. All of this weather combined is nothing in comparison to what they're going through in Texas, where our NBC 10's John Perrick is down, helping our stations down there cover this. John, where are you right now? Are you near San Antonio, and where are you headed?
Hey, Gene. Yep, we're on the highway right now. We just left San Antonio, left our hotel there, and we're on our way to Kerrville. We were there yesterday. You may have, if any of you were watching NBC 10 News yesterday, we were live there at 7 o'clock. We had a story at 11 too. We're heading now to follow up on our story from yesterday. So we were covering really this dramatic scene where a home was uprooted on Friday morning from the floodwaters, and it went down the river. And inside the home were at least 4 people. One of them has survived. The other 3 are still missing, and we're on our way right now to talk to that survivor, excuse me, at least to see if he will talk with us on camera. So that's where we're heading. We're heading to Kerrville right now, Gene.
Yeah, I saw that scene yesterday. The whole house was floating down the river. There were people in that house?
There were people in the house, including a 19-month-old child, a young boy. His name's Carlos. He's still missing, along with his two parents. Really a tragic scene. They had a vigil last night. We spoke. Here's some video here just to show the damage of what's going on down the Guadalupe River. And we spoke with that boy's godmother last night. Really a emotional interview. It's a tough scene out here.
Right. Now, Texas is such a big state. I mean, you could fit Rhode Island and parts of it like a pocket. So as you drive around, there's going to be devastation. But then are there other towns and communities that it's normal? People are shopping.
Yes.
People are going to work. It's like
Yes.
on the way to tragedy, you see normalcy.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's important to kind of remember here that all of this happened along a pretty thin river. So we're driving right now on the highway, and it looks like we're driving through just any highway. It looks like we're driving down West Main Road in Middletown. You know, you've got all these commercial shops open. Everyone's still living their life. But when you get down towards the Guadalupe River, especially in towns like Kerrville, Center Point, Hunt 2, you really see the damage. But still, even in those towns, or cities rather, even in those cities, there's still a sense of normalcy. Businesses are flowing. People are still working. Life goes on here.
Right. Now, you're coming from San Antonio to Kerrville, and distances are completely different than we know of. It could take you like 45 minutes. How long is the drive to get to where you want to go? And it's no big deal, an hour drive down there.
Yeah, it's just over an hour. We're about 40 minutes out right now on the highway. We're about to actually enter a town called Bernie. We were there the first day we got here. And in Bernie, we met a ton of volunteers, people just trying to help those impacted. And that's, I think if there's any light at the end of the tunnel here, it's that. It's so many people coming together, as you can imagine, because there are still over 100 people missing. I can't emphasize it enough. We see the video, we see everything, but when you see it with your own eyes, you truly realize how catastrophic it was.
All right, NBC 10's John Perrick. Is that Scott Santos sitting next to you, one of our top photographers?
Yeah, we got Scott right here.
Hey, Scott. Scott, you've covered other things like this for us before. Did anything come to mind? You've been down to the floods and hurricanes and everything, so to speak, in your career.
Yeah, like John said, Gene, you got to see it with your own eyes. I mean, the trees, 100-year-old trees, 4 feet thick, just trampled over. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. Where just pads of where houses were, cement pads, houses were.
Yeah, that video of the house floating down the river, that made it all over the news everywhere. And it's stunning that people were in that house. Can you imagine the whole house moving? All right, I'll let you guys go to work. You're headed to Kerrville. We'll look for your reporting tonight. NBC 10's John Perrick with Scott Santos, our photographer. Story that kind of jumped off the screen last night. There was a man accused of threatening President Trump. He's a Rhode Islander, and this is him, 37 years old. And he was hauled into federal court in Providence yesterday. Now, the judge let him off on bond because the agents who were involved in this case said he really had no means to carry out the threat. Nonetheless, threatening a president and others is serious business. And he promised to be on good behavior, but as soon as he came out of those courtroom doors, he wasn't on good behavior. He saw our cameras and went after them. Let's listen.
Away from me. Hey, you want to get violated right now?
You hear that voice in the background? That's a court officer saying, you just promised the judge you're on good behavior. Out here, you're acting like that. You want to be violated right now? That means we'll grab you and bring you back in, and you'll be locked up. Anyway, that's the way it went out there yesterday. All right, just up Route 95 is Pawtucket-based Hasbro Toys, and Hasbro is now telling us that toy prices could go up because the tariffs on China will impact the toys made in China, and that's a lot of their product, and so expect toy prices to go up. In the meantime, the man who used to run Hasbro, Alan Hassenfeld, a member of the Hasbro family, has passed away at the age of 76. Those are pictures of Alan's grandfather and uncle who started it, and this is an interview he did with Patrice Wood a little while ago, where he was taking us through a tour of the top Hasbro toys. He was still involved in the company, not the day-to-day running. He was the chairman emeritus, and he was sitting on the board, and he had 5% of the stock. But he had left the day-to-day running to other people, and he said it was time to move on. Anyway, Alan Hassenfeld, who became a philanthropist later in life, also politically active. funding programs and points of view that he felt Rhode Island should be going in a certain direction. He'd spend his money on that. But he's dead at the age of 76 in London. And apparently this was a surprise. And that was just one of two deaths reported yesterday. If you were listening to my radio show at 8:30, we were first to break the story that former Governor Ed DePrete had passed away at the age of 91. And we were actually speaking to family members who said he was celebrating his own birthday party on the day he died in his condominium in Chapel View in Cranston, not that far from where he had lived for a long time as governor, just on the other end of Route 37. He was 91 years old and died on his birthday. Here's more from NBC 10's Brian Crandall, catching up with those who knew former Governor Ed DePrete.
Won 3 two-year terms as governor of Rhode Island after being in city politics in Cranston.
He was a businessman, as you well know, prior to becoming an elected official in Cranston. So he treated local government as a business.
Mike Trafficante succeeded DePrete as mayor of Cranston and credits DePrete with getting him started in local government.
He was a down-to-earth guy, believe me. He was a great family man.
DePrete was known to take trips into Winnebago. He struck up a friendship with George H.W. Bush and last talked to us to remember the former president when he died 7 years ago.
I was honored by the fact that he did come to Rhode Island, spent quite a bit of time at the House.
DePrete lost the 1990 governor's race to Bruce Sunland in their third matchup. A few years later, DePrete was charged with corruption allegations and ultimately pleaded to bribery and extortion charges for accepting $250,000 in exchange for the awarding of state contracts.
To those charges, Mr. DePrete, how do you plead?
Guilty, Your Honor.
DePrete served just under a year in state prison.
You know, this is a chapter I'm sure he and his family would like to forget.
Former West Warwick Mayor Mike LeVake.
He really launched my political career.
He says DePrete asked him to head the state Republican Party back in the 80s.
Ed DePrete was a very, very misunderstood person. Everybody thought he was just serious all the time, and but he had a great sense of humor.
In an interview LeVake did last year, DePrete told him he was proud of creating open space and cutting taxes during his time as the state's leader.
He was a unique individual, and history will prove that he was one of the most effective governors in the state of Rhode Island.
All right, that might have been the last interview DePrete did with Mike LeVake, who now writes for the Warwick Beacon and the Cranston Herald. In an earlier interview, not that long before, DePrete told the Providence Journal columnist Mark Patinkin that other people around him misbehaved, and he was blamed for that, and that he took the plea deal, pleaded guilty so that the judge would go easy on his son, who was also involved in that bribery scandal, and was treated a little different than the father. The father did a year in prison at the ACI, ironically, in Cranston, right around the corner, literally, from where he was living with his family and where he would park that famous Winnebago. He had very good relationships with the Bush family. President George H.W. Bush, the father, came in to campaign for DePrete. And I remember covering that in the very early 90s when I was working for a Connecticut station. We came up to cover that. That was quite the time at the Quidnesset Country Club, and quite the big deal on the news in Rhode Island that day. Former Governor Ed DePrete dead at the age of 91 on his birthday. All right, let's keep going. On the lighter side of things, which is always good to have, they've got everything in Florida, and guess what? Now they've got a Hooters. The first Hooters has opened up in the Villages. They have Hooters elsewhere in Florida, but this is a big deal for the Villages, and as you know, a lot of Rhode Islanders are down in the Villages, and now they have a Hooters to run to, and they were packing the place yesterday. In fact, it's all the rage. Go on YouTube, you'll see all kinds of stuff, including this guy giving his review with his girlfriend in tow.
Today, we are at the grand opening of the Hooters restaurant that just opened up in the Villages. Woohoo! Now, a few things. This actually was suggested. Some people said, multiple times. Will you go to the new Hooters that opens up in the Villages? We just happened to be free on the grand opening. We were going to go to it sometime, but it worked out to where we are here today. Also, my parents got here about 5 o'clock. It's currently 6 o'clock, and they said the wait so far is an hour. So
we timed it right.
They've had to wait a little bit, and it's just probably going to be pretty busy being the opening day. I will say
All right. I want to thank that guy for the review of the new family style Hooters. I guess the guy's parents, and he's going to go there. Hooters is known for kind of a young men's crowd. They have the chicken wings and the beer. The one over here by us at the airport is closed. Believe it or not, Buddy Cianci actually owned that property and the building, and his son Brad, his nephew rather, Brad, took it over. I know Hooters went out there. We'll see if they want to come back, but it's all the rage down in Florida at the Village, where a lot of Rhode Islanders listen to me every day on the radio and maybe watch us on the WJAR YouTube channel, Instagram, and the NBC 10 app. You're never far from your local news. Speaking of WJAR, we're celebrating our 76th anniversary. Last year was a big one, the 75th. This is our 76th. So 76 years ago, we were running off with only 3 channels in the market, and actually with 2, I think. And we had tubes in big boxes that the kids wouldn't recognize as televisions. Today, you watch us on your phone. Let's take a look back now. 76th anniversary of NBC 10, WJAR.
Before, representatives from NBC approached the outlet with the idea that the company establish a TV affiliate in Providence. WJAR TV went on the air 3 years later. The date was Sunday, July 10th, 1949.
Congratulations, you've just won $310, Mrs. Creek. I'm not kidding, dear.
Identify was hosted by Jay Kroll, one of the station's most popular on-air personalities. Kroll interviewed a wide range of celebrities over the years, some more famous now than they were back then.
And he said to my agent, I have a science fiction show in mind that I'm going to put pointed ears on that guy.
Hi, girls. I'm Art Lake, and here's what I've got cooking for you. You take a little bit of the old and add to it something new, and sometimes the results are quite sweet and sometimes hot.
This is WJAR TV Providence. In a way, we sort of invented television, not the scientific, the technical part, but what you did with this perfected instrument. Our original newscast was delivered by a Western Union boy in a sealed envelope.
Here with an update on Hurricane Belle is meteorologist John Giossi.
Thank you very much, Art Lake. Storm preparations are pretty well underway. Nice to see some of those familiar faces once again after all these years.
Well, I think John's living down in the Villages, so maybe he'll give us a report on the new Hooters. I'll text him, see what he knows about that. We helped invent television, and they're reinvented over time. And now you watch us all over the place on your phones and your computers, not just the old television screen the way it used to be. All right, as we look ahead toward the rest of the day, Market Basket has still got a feud going on with the sisters who are on the board and the brother, Arthur T., that they gave the boot to. And that's apparently affecting, at least according to the workers, it's affecting them. Now, the company says nothing's changing. Spokesperson for the company says nothing's been affected. It's business as usual, but there are some grumblings among some of the workers who are very loyal to Arthur T. Demoulas. We told you about Hassenfeld. We're awaiting arrangements. We'll see what the family is planning for memorial services. Same thing with Governor Dupree. Good news for Boston. People are going back to the downtown office buildings. You know, they all fled during COVID and the pandemic. Well, now they're reporting that rates of occupancy are up. That's good for the downtown. Across town in Cambridge, across the river, President Trump is going after Harvard's accreditation. He said they're breaking all kinds of rules. And he was going after their funding and cutting off their federal funding. Now he's targeting their accreditation, which is something he has tried to go after at Columbia. So the feud between Donald Trump and the Ivy League continues. Speaking of Donald Trump, the president is slapping up to 50% tariffs on Brazil. On Brazil, we get machinery and some coffee and pharmaceuticals and other chemicals from Brazil, but now it's going to come at a higher cost. And as we mentioned, I think at the top of the broadcast, Hasbro is expecting the prices of toys to go up because the tariffs in China are hurting the price of toys coming in to the U.S. Meantime, we'll keep an eye on what's going on in Washington and around Rhode Island and around the region, and we'll follow up on this flooding on the Southeast Expressway into Boston coming up tonight on NBC 10 News at 6. For now, I'm Gene Valicenti. That's Coffee Time /Coffee Milk. Have a good rest of your day. I'll see you on the news tonight, NBC 10 at 6, and right back on the radio on WPRO tomorrow morning.